Hello, today I'm going to discuss exploitation-interference trade-offs and how invasive species do not have to worry about these trade-offs. First, let's talk about exploitation and interference competition. A species that uses exploitation competition will find a resource and use it up before another species has time to access the resource. Interference competition means that a species will defend a source that they found from another species. Trade-offs are the compromises that a species has to make in order to survive. In a typical species, the organisms would be good at either exploitative or interference competition. But in the case of many invasive species, this is not true. Today, we're going to discuss Argentine ants and why they are invasive but are still extremely successful. Argentine ants are not only good at exploiting a food source, but they are also very good at defending the sources that they have access to. Why would Argentine ants be so good at both of these kinds of competition? Well, in order to be good exploiters, the ants must have good scouts that can find the food quickly, as well as bring many ants back to the food source to remove it more quickly. In order for the ants to be good at interference competition, the individuals in the colony need to be good defenders and that they are larger size or more agile to fend off other ant species, or they have the ability to use a chemical defense. In the case of Argentine ants, the ant colony has high numbers, so when a food source is located, it can be moved rather quickly. And if another ant species tries to get to the source, Argentine ants will employ a chemical defense to help drive away the offending species. So if a native ant species and an Argentine ant colony were placed equally apart from a food source, the Argentine ants would get to the food source first, therefore exploiting the source, but they would also interfere with the native species' ability to get to the source, which means that the Argentine ants get to keep all of the food. Because Argentine ants do not have to pick a side or a trade-off, they seem to be wildly successful. And in the case of many invasive species, this is true, meaning that many invasive species can be successful when faced with native ant species. Another thing to consider is that these Argentine ants are not originally from the area they have been brought to, which means that they are not subject to predation in the same way that native ant species can be. It means that these ants essentially don't have as much to lose as native ant species that are out foraging. So, all in all, Argentine ants and other invasive species are getting around competition trade-offs in a way that might not really seem fair when pitted up against native ant species, but it does explain why they can be so successful.